Welcome to Center of Light. Things didn't go as planned. It's good to see you tonight. I had an amazing synchronicity happen just a little bit ago. Someone, Debbie Grassberger Schmole, came across my feed, and she had this mean thing question. The song that was the number one song on your 7th birthday describes today, 2021, basically. So, got to Google, did some typing, looked in, number one song from 1970, and it was Like a Bridge Over Troubled Waters. And I was kind of wowed by that because I'm now going to announce Homecoming Crossing the Bridge, the Troubled Waters, to the Soul. It's in this form. If you have not purchased this bestseller yet, that link is now active in this room. Hyper jump to Amazon, purchase this bestseller, give me some support. Your love beyond measure, you sexy human creature. Also, use the same link to go there, and if you have read it, and leave me a delicious, powerful link. That would be awesome. Lavender Soul CDs I'm selling them now, three different albums for $20. I was selling them $20 a piece. I have thousands. I'm moving them left and right. Just pay for the shipping. $20 in the shipping. $24. There you have it. Welcome to Center of Light. Be ready to dive in. Take your seatbelt off. Strap in all my brother and sister astronauts as we launch for inner space. Tonight, my guest on Center of Light is Wild Trees. You heard me right. He was born in the woods. No, but he lives there. Let me tell you about my guest tonight, Wild Trees. Wild Trees is a biologist who studies the paranormal. He has a degree in biology, has published research in a peer-reviewed journal, co-written a college magazine lab manual, and has extensive field research experience in Texas, Colorado, Alaska, Montana, Wyoming, and Arkansas. He specializes in animal behavior, experimental design, and microbiology. I did recently, just a bit ago, post how you can find more about him and a few other things in the room. So jump seat, my bro. Welcome to Center of Light Radio.
Hello. Let me see. Hold on.
You good? No can hear.
Okay.
There he is. How you doing, brother? Welcome. Good to see you.
I'm good, but my arch nemesis is the mute button. It always has been, and it always will be.
So your arch nemesis name is Mute.
Yeah.
How you doing, man? What's happening in your field, your neck of the woods? How you like that, Wild Trees? What's happening in your neck of the woods, brother?
Well, I gotta tell you, I'm getting lots of rain, a lot of nutrients in my leaves and my roots. I got a squirrel living in my head, so it's all good. I'm a happy tree.
Where do you live, sir? If you care to disclose that, or what part of the country?
Yeah. I live in the Gulf Coast of Texas, so near Houston, basically Houston, Texas. So it's pretty good. It's one of the largest cities in the world, and weather is okay, but we do have hurricane and flooding problems. That's our main issues.
I grew up with both those, being from South Louisiana, so I know what that's like. It's Mother Nature's a powerful bitch, isn't she?
Yes, very angry at times.
Let me ask you. Go ahead.
Justifiably angry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Absolutely. She's just delivering what we're offering as spoiled, rotten children. Go sit in the corner for a while. At what age did you start leaning into, not necessarily the paranormal, which we're going to get through all that, in biology, but what age did you start moving into the wonderment of nature, Mother Nature?
That's a good question. Well, I think I have one memory that I keep going back to, and I think I was a child. I was pretty little, and I was in the closets, like a real closet, and I found a book, like a book, and it had a picture of a dragon on it. And I had never seen a dragon before or anything like it. And I remember I just was like marveling at it. I was in awe, and I was instantly fascinated. But then quickly, that fascination with dragons translated to a fascination with dinosaurs, which are basically, we have a lot more information about dinosaurs. And I still collect dinosaurs to this day. I mean, I have a big dinosaur toy collection. I like to say that I'm not a quitter. So I started collecting dinosaur toys when I was a kid, and I just haven't quit because this is not in my spirit. But yeah, so I was a really little kid, and I think I just read that book and I saw that picture of a dragon. But I was always interested in animals. I was just always curious by them. I always wanted to be near them and everything. So yeah.
As I play with your post often on Facebook,
Yeah.
a lot of it is
Obviously.
about dinosaurs, and I love the idea. You're not like most people in the sense that you're into dinosaurs, microbes, this one particular little thing that looks like a moving part of
Yeah.
your piglet page, if you will. What is that
Yeah.
address again?
Oh, it's so it's facebook.com/ the moss piglet, and it's the.moss.piglet. So a moss piglet is a little nickname for an animal. They're also called water bears, but they're actually not pigs or bears. But the technical name for this group of animals is a tardigrade, and they're microscopic animals. They live all over the world. You can find them in moss. I mean, wherever you are right now, Keith, I'm sure there's thousands of them around your outside around you. Yeah, be careful; they're gonna get you. But
I know them as water bears. Please
water bears,
continue.
yeah. But yeah, they're very interesting. I'm doing my master's thesis on them, so I got into them a lot. It was actually my friend Charlie when I was in graduate school. He was I was going to do a project on something else, but my friend Charlie was like kept asking me about water bears, water bears, water bears, and then he knew I had access to a laboratory, so he was like water bears, water bears. So we went together to the laboratory, and he actually was the first one in my lab to find a water bear with a microscope. And I had never seen one, but Charlie's the one that found it. We were both looking through some moss and water in a microscope, and he found it. And then I was like, okay, let me just do my project on water bears. Why not? They're a really good animal. It's a really good system to work with. So yeah.
I had to tend to something. So you went to school, you done all this work, and it brought you to this place. And this place you're in, I'm sure you're having a blast doing it. But is this the end quote end goal of why you went to school? Are you doing that thing, or like you said, you were going to another graduate, becoming another graduate, another field, or another level? This sounds like an interview question, but I'm going to ask it now. Where do you see yourself in 5 years doing? In other words, what did you do all this for? Where are you going with this?
Yeah, so in 5 years, hopefully, I do have a an organization that I started, and I hope to grow that organization. It's an educational organization, doing science, publishing research, and educating people. Basically, I unfortunately I don't want to give I don't want to say much more. I mean, I'll tell you off the air, but I don't want to give much more because 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 I also study the paranormal, and unfortunately, the professional academic community and the study of the paranormal do not mix well together at all. It's like oil and water. So
Give us an overview on science, the scientific method, and the field research that you do, and just all the gamut of what that is.
all right, I'd love to. Okay, so let's start off with science. And I'm going to start this off by saying I don't care if you like science or not. Okay, if you hate science, by all means, continue to hate science. Um, I'm not here. My goal isn't to evangelize science. What I do want to do is that I do want to just teach you what science is, so that if you don't like science, at least you have a good understanding of what it is. You can make better arguments. So I just want to get that out of the way. Okay, so first of all, I'll say science is benign in nature. Science is not evil. It's not good. You know. So the other thing is that science, I like to view it as a tool. So some other tools that we're familiar with is like a car, or as I like to call it, a horseless carriage. A car is a tool that will get you somewhere. It'll transport you somewhere. There's also a spoon. You know, a spoon is a tool. It could be used for good, like eating delicious ice cream, or you could do bad things with it. You know, I'll leave that to your imagination. So in the same way, science is just a tool. It's not good or bad. Now, the way this tool works is you ask questions and it will give you an answer. It will give you the answer. So as you can see, that's a very beneficial tool. You could ask it anything. You could ask it, how can I get out of jail sooner? How can I make $1 million? How can I travel to the bottom of the ocean? How can I travel to the moon? How can I make this boat more fuel efficient? So to summarize just where we're at so far, science is neither good or bad. It is only a tool, and the way the tool works is you ask it questions and it will give you an answer. Now, some other things you need to know about science is that in order for it to work properly, you have to be unbiased. So when you're asking these questions, you cannot have a preconceived answer in your head, because the thing is, science will give you an answer and you may not like it, but you have to accept it for what it is.
That
If you
sounds like
don't,
spirituality. It's exactly
yeah,
spirituality. You go into it unbiased.
okay.
Don't expect an answer. An answer will come. Please continue.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, and feel free to jump in here whenever you want. Okay, so yeah, so you have to be unbiased. Okay, if you're not unbiased, then it's not going to work. Okay, and then this is the most important thing about science. Okay, so there's only two things you need to memorize right here, and these are the two things you have to have for science to work properly. Okay, number one is you have to have what's called repeatability. Repeatability means that if you come up with a discovery, then you have to list detailed methods, and someone else has to be able to get the same results that you do. Now, I don't think this is a bad thing. This is a good thing. I mean, it's a tool is not very useful if it doesn't consistently give you results. So you have to have repeatability. Now, I hear some people say that the paranormal lacks repeatability. I say that, yeah, sometimes it does appear to lack repeatability, but I think if you're a good enough scientist and you're a smart enough scientist, you're clever enough, you can get repeatability out of the paranormal. So I don't think it's an excuse. So, okay, so you need to have repeatability. And then the second thing you need to have for science to work is you have to have what's called falsifiability. Falsifiability is the ability to prove something false or to prove something incorrect. This is a common mistake people make with science. They think science is all about, I want to prove this is correct. I want to prove this is true. I want to prove this is right. That's actually incorrect. Science is all about being able to say something is not true, something is false. This is a little confusing, so I have a story to explain this falsifiability concept. Okay, Keith, let's say you have a friend, and your friend says to you, check it out, I have an invisible dragon that lives in my garage, okay? And then Keith, you say, wow, this is amazing. Let me use science to investigate this claim. This science is perfect. So like I said, you have to ask a question. So your question becomes, the question you ask science is there an invisible dragon in my friend's garage? That's the question. Okay. You go to the garage and you ask your friend, okay, I know this dragon is invisible.
I love it.
I know this dragon's invisible, so you tell your friend, let's get some paint and let's just throw it on the dragon, and then we should be able to see its outline. Your friend says, no, that's not going to work because this dragon is going to, as soon as it sees the paint coming, it's going to phase out of reality, and then as soon as the paint falls, it's going to phase back into reality. Okay, so right there, you're unable to prove him wrong. You're lacking that falsifiability. But you say, okay, that's fine. No problem. I get it. I get it. So you say, how about this? How about we put some flour on the ground, and then when the dragon walks on the flour, we should see its cute little footprints. Then your friend says, no, it's not going to work because this dragon hovers over the ground. Once again, you're lacking falsifiability. That claim, you're not able to prove it wrong. So then, once again, you say, okay, how about we use a motion sensor camera that also has a heat sensor on it. And then we could just point it at the dragon, and we should be able to see its movement or its body heat or something. And your friend says, no, that's not going to work because this dragon can stay perfectly still, and it can also modulate its temperature. Okay, so I think you see where I'm going with this, okay? This is an example of lacking falsifiability. If your friend continues to go down this route, then this claim cannot be evaluated with science because there's no way for you to prove him wrong. The other thing your friend is doing in this example is he's using what's called multiple outs. Multiple outs is a way of kind of getting around science, so you should be vigilant of multiple outs. So like a funny example of multiple outs is like I was in college one time. I asked a girl out to go watch like the new King Kong movie, and she was like, you know what? I don't really like those kind of movies. I said, that's fine. Why don't we go get ice cream? And she's like, you know what? I'm lactose intolerant. I said, okay, that's fine. Why don't we go for why don't we go for a walk? And she said, no, you know what? I broke my leg last night. I can't. Anyway, she was just giving me multiple outs, multiple be out of me of a date. So in a nutshell, that's the introduction to science. So
Would you call that? Would you call that resistance? Just simple resistance to new information? Did the what's the word I'm looking for? Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, cognitive dissonance is when you have something in your mind. It's important to science.
A core belief.
Yeah, you have a core belief, and if you ever hear information that goes against that core belief, it causes stress in your head, and so you're likely to push away that new information. That's what cognitive dissonance. It's very important. We all have it. It's very natural. But if we're going to evaluate something with science, and if we just want to get to the truth of something, which is what we should want to do, then we need to appreciate cognitive dissonance and try to deal with it. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Okay,
everything you said sounds like spirituality. Instead of trying to prove something, which means I'm going at it with the understanding that I have to prove that I am right. And so we always want to be validated being right. And even, who was it, Ford, the car maker, who said whether you believe that you're right or wrong, whatever, it's true. It all sounds like the same level, Mother Nature, supernatural, spirituality to me, because when we get into these foxholes, these situations, we have to always revert back to the essence, the natural, the supernatural, that which is the paranormal. Speaking of paranormal, were you finished laying out your sharing with the audience about the science and all that, which you were coming through? Because I have question number 2 that I'm really curious about, because I love that world of the paranormal.
Yeah, well, let me just, what I always like to do is I like to summarize it. So once again, let's just wrap it all up. Okay, science is benign. It is not good or bad. You have to give it intentions. Number 2, science is a tool. The way the tool works is you ask questions, whatever question, unlimited amount of questions, you will get an answer. That's amazing. That's a really good tool to have. And then the last 2 things that you should remember is, in order for science to work properly, you need to have repeatability. So you have to have consistent results, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And you have to have falsifiability, which is when you're examining a claim, you have to be able to prove it wrong. And you can remember that example of the invisible dragon. And if you just remember all those small things, guess what? You're a science expert. You know everything. You know the most important things about science. And if you don't like science, at least now you know what it is, and you could make better arguments against it. But yeah, that's it. So go ahead.
Again, that truly sounds like a spiritual aspirant, looking at things from a scientific. In fact, in the regard that you spoke about science, equates parallels with what spiritualists would call God, creator. Because here's this thing, which is not a thing at all, and you're supplicating and you're bringing forth a response or an idea, or simply just wanting to know. And it will deliver if we get out of what I think has to happen, because I'm biased. I'm a biased scientist. I'm a biased, opinionated, spiritual aspirant. I was going to ask you about the paranormal. I love the paranormal. Some people love it too much, and it gets a little bit ridiculous, and they lose sight of what paranormality is. They go into abnormality. When you do paranormal research, would you share with me some of the issues that happen when you are conducting your research?
Sure. And I will also say, just to comment on what you said about the differences between spirituality and science. Like, to me, I see a lot of parallels between magical thinking, old school magic, and science. I mean, a lot of science is like doing these steps, which is kind of like casting a spell. You have these rules, you have all these steps, and it's almost a ritual that you do when you do science. And then you have all these people that also do it together. So to me, like, there are a lot of parallels there. It's not, it's I know I'm not the only one that saw that, but yeah, there are a lot of parallels. Okay, so some of the problems or issues you may have with uh, paranormal research, some of them are very similar to the problems you would have with non-paranormal research. So mainly the two things I want people to think about are ethics and safety. Safety and ethics are very important when you're doing any kind of research, especially paranormal research. So, ethics, what is this word? It's a crazy word. You hear it all the time. Well, ethics basically means that you're acting in a way that is acceptable by mainstream society. Okay. So if you're acting ethical, you're acting in a way that society finds acceptable. Okay. So what is ethical? What does our society find acceptable? Well, not hurting anybody, not lying to anybody, not stealing, not destroying anything. This is what ethics means. It basically means you act in a decent manner. And so you need to think about that before you start any project.
And I think that ethics is completely different from morals.
Okay.
They're two different, completely, almost extreme. They sound the same, but they're not.
Well, tell me. So I've told you my definition of ethics. What's your definition of morals? Now I'd love to hear it.
Morals to ethics. To me, ethics is something that are a little more innate. We might learn ethics from the outer world, from good parents.
Yeah,
good
sure.
situations, being born into a wonderful situation where that's naturally a bed that's been laid and you've learned ethics. You learn respect. You learn courage, to be humble, to open the door for all that wonderful stuff. Moral seems like, if you don't, you get panking on your hiney. It's almost old Christianity, the first book, Bible. It seems, what is true morality? I mean, that will flip-flop across the world depending on what culture you come from, really. I mean, morals, we're going to go over there and drop an A-bomb on these people because we have morals and you're sinning against our country's dogma. And so where does that go?
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I like that, Keith. Yeah. Okay, so and then safety was the other thing. So you have to consider a short-term safety and long-term safety of everybody involved, of all the animals involved, all the forms of intelligence. And when we're talking about paranormal, now we're talking about not necessarily just animals involved, but forms of intelligences. That's another thing. Whenever I design a paranormal experiment, even if I'm studying, let's say, something that's got a negative perception, or society views it as a negative thing, like let's just say a demon or a poltergeist. Even if I'm going to do a scientific experiment with a demon or a poltergeist, I still want the best outcome for the demon or the poltergeist. I still want these animals to be treated with respect. I still want them to be happy. And I still think about that, because I also think if you're going to work with some of these intelligent paranormal intelligences, it's going to help you to have the best intentions in mind for those animals. So let's say you're working with a sea serpent or a Sasquatch, a frogman, a poltergeist, or a demon.
Well, being respectful opens the door to everything responding to what it is you want. You're allowing, accepting, and appreciating even those demonic qualities or whatever it is to say, look, it gets their attention and says, oh, wow, someone actually cares for me. I had a friend of mine many, many years ago, Trees, amazing psychic, no joke, amazing psychic. And someone contacted me and said, Keith, something's going on in my house. There's some baby monitor stuff happening and all this. And I told her as a psychic, at least a remote view, I told her what was happening, and she validated, said, this is exactly what's happened. So I didn't say anything to Richard. I said, Richard, come with me on a clearing of a house. And he said, sure. I didn't tell him anything. He walks in the house and he nailed everything. This doorway, this baby monitor, this and that. And so he said it actually floats about the room, but it comes from a doorway in one of the closets, which happens to be the newborn's closet. So he felt it floating about. And he said, Keith, you want to experience something different? I said, I'm salivating. Absolutely, I do. So he says, come over and sit on the couch. So Rich is sitting on the couch, and I'm sitting on the couch. And he does this in the middle of the couch. He goes, you want to talk? Come sit down. He was inviting this presence, dark presence, to come sit down and have a conversation. It felt, I'm assuming, dark energy felt like, wow, someone is willing to listen to me
Wow.
so I can give my attention. And as the conversation ensued, back and forth, and Rich is going, Keith, the energy wants me to tell you that we are agents of the light, though it may not appear that way. And I said, okay, my question back is, how so? It said, because if you don't find the light on your own accord, it is our mission as ambassadors, agents, to scare you back into the light.
Interesting.
Yeah, very.
Okay, well, yeah, so those two things need to be considered. So yeah, I also don't think if you're doing paranormal research, I don't think an aggressive approach is good. I don't think you should start going. Let's just say you go to a haunted house or a cemetery and you start yelling obscenities. You know, you probably would get a reaction, but I think that's unethical and unsafe. So I would not recommend doing that as well. And as far as hypnotism, I don't recommend anybody do any amateur hypnotism as well. That could hurt somebody. If somebody has a traumatic experience, a traumatic paranormal experience, I think you should thread very carefully when you're talking to them about it. You don't want to bring up any trauma as well. So those are a couple of things that you should consider when you're doing paranormal research.
So what's the goal?
So right now, what I'd really like to do is so when you're an academic scientist, you know, the goal is to publish a research paper in a peer-reviewed journal. Okay. Now, this doesn't apply if you work for a company or the government. You're probably gonna produce a research paper, and somebody's gonna see it, but it's not gonna be the world. That's gonna be kept private, because if you're the government or a private company, you know, you paid for it, and so nobody's gonna learn that information. So unfortunately, that type of research does not get shared with the world. But if you're a scientist like I am in the academic world, you know, there's this term in academia called publish or perish. Basically, it means that the way you get judged as a scientist is by how many publications you have. And so, and publications are good. Publications are one of the main ways that humanity learns about its place in the universe. It's one of the main ways that humanity, you know, increases its knowledge base, and that's a good thing. So this is how it works, and this is what I would want to do with a paranormal study. Okay, so usually what I do is I would come up with a project idea, which I have some I could share with you. Then you know, I outline how I'm going to do the project, all the steps. I do a little budget, and I have other scientists look at it, and they kind of just approve it, you know, just to get their approval, just to see. They could just tell me if they see any problems with the project or if they think it's feasible. Okay, then once I go out in the field and I collect all my data, then I have to go inside and maybe analyze it with mathematical models or with a microscope. And then I have to write a paper. Now, these papers have the format of introduction. They have a methods. The methods is very important because the methods is where you describe everything you did to get to where you are. And that's the section that other people have to be able to follow those methods exactly how you did it, okay? Then after the methods, you have a results section, which is basically, you know, it's very self-explanatory. But then there's a discussion section. Discussion section is where you discuss the implications of what you discovered. And then there's also a section at the top called an abstract. The abstract is basically a summary of the whole paper. It's maybe a paragraph or two long. And then, of course, you also have graphs and visual numerical data in there. Okay, so once you've written this paper, you pick a journal, an academic journal to publish it in. And there's all kinds of journals. There's ones on physics, ones on dairy cows, there's ones on insects. You know, every subject you think of has an academic journal. So you submit your paper to that journal. Other scientists look at it, and it will give you feedback. Sometimes, but rarely, they'll say, this is perfect, this paper is perfect, you don't have to change anything, and they'll publish it. A lot of times, though, they'll give you a lot of feedback, and it can be kind of a headache, but I guess it's all for the greater good, as long as those reviewers have good intentions. But here's the thing. Once that paper is published, it's accessible to the entire world. So anybody in the world can read that paper, they could learn about what you discovered, and they could either develop a new technology or they could expand on that information. So that's the goal, is to publish one of these papers. but on the paranormal. So I would, instead of, I've published papers on insects, animal behavior, bacteria, but I want to move into the space where I pick a paranormal subject and I publish something on this paranormal subject.
How does it feel to be you when you do what you do?
It feels really good. Something I tell people, if someone's considering, usually it's younger people because I go to high schools and I talk a lot about science, high school kids. But something I tell them that, perhaps this applies to everybody, but it's something I tell kids more often because I think it's something good. Something you don't really consider when you're a scientist, or one of the benefits you don't consider, is being respected, is people respecting you. A lot of times, I mean, before I was a scientist, a lot of times I was not respected. I didn't even know what it felt like to be respected. But if you become a scientist, this happens to me, and you publish papers and you go to conventions and you give talks, people, they treat you with respect. They view you as someone who is worthy of respect, and they show you outwardly respect. And it feels good. And I think a lot of kids, they lack that in their lives. A lot of people just lack being treated with respect. Maybe it's just a society we live in. But if you become a scientist and you do the hard work, you publish, you do the hard work in the lab, you go in the field, which is actually kind of fun to go in the field if you're a field biologist like myself. But if you have good intentions and your goal is to further the knowledge of humanity, then one of your rewards is to be respected. And that's a really good feeling. And that's why I encourage kids to go into science, because I tell them, people will respect you, and that will feel good.
Totally agree. As I look at some of this pseudo spirituality, it's like, it's not about me, it's not about me. Horseshit. It is about you. It's always been about you. And that's why, like you and like other scientists, I yearn, I wouldn't say crave. Yeah, whatever word. I'm not gonna disguise it. I enjoy the validation from the outside world because it shows me, keep going this way. This is the way. And when people do this kind of thing or acknowledges your work or something you did, an accolade, it's like, wow, I get to do this thing like you and many of us are doing, that thing that we love. When we play in the field of what it is that is reflective of who we truly are, we can never get past into a greater possibility until we understand, accept, allow, and appreciate that which is happening for your greater good right now by the reflection of other people. So I totally get that. I have another question that came from your bio as a bullet point. Mm-hmm. It's kind of long, but it goes even further into other paranormal areas that I truly love. Discuss the following project proposal. Studying living, I'm keying in on that word for a reason. Discuss the following project proposal. Studying living UFOs that may live in our atmosphere. Study CE5 phenomena. Research the paranormal by helping people who are suffering with paranormal problems, attempting to develop a method or device from stopping aliens from paralyzing us physically. This ability to stop up completely has been reported in many cases. What is all of that beautiful sandwich about?
Yeah. I'll get into all of those. And then, what, I thought of one just on Sunday. Sunday on Black Lotus, we had a hoot and holler, and he was a Bigfoot researcher. So I actually thought of a way to study Bigfoot. Originally, I'll start with this one first because this is brand new. And I will say right now, don't judge me too hard, because I thought about this idea just a few days ago, and I thought it in like 2 minutes. So I'm still developing this idea. Okay, so originally I wanted to stay away from Bigfoot research. I was just on Arcane Radio with Lon Strickler. And we were talking about Bigfoot, and I was telling Lon, I was like, Lon, I don't know if I want to do a Bigfoot project. That seems like the Moby Dick of paranormal research. Bigfoot is a very intelligent creature, I suspect, and it's just like, I was like, I don't think I have the resources to. But then we had this Bigfoot researcher, Hoot and Holler, which is his nickname, and then I started thinking about a way of doing ethical Bigfoot research. And I don't think I've heard anybody discuss this method. So let me tell you what it is. Okay. So first of all, let me explain how animals become known to the scientific community. Okay, so there's some animals out there, like let's say the platypus. Platypus is a really weird animal that you probably wouldn't believe if I just told you about it. You know, if you had never heard of it, and I said, hey, there's this animal in Australia. It's got like poison claws on its back, little, or I think they're venom. It's got venomous claws on its back feet. It's got like a furry body. It's got like a duck bill. It's got like a beaver tail. Okay,
and the males give birth. Is that
and
right?
the males give birth. Oh, and they lay eggs as well. They lay eggs.
Right, that's what I meant. And isn't only the males in their back feet that have the venom? Is that right?
I think so. That sounds like it could be.
Anyway,
right. Yeah.
I just had to just chime in. It was
So it's a weird
delicious.
animal. Yeah, no, by all means, chime in. But yeah, so but how do we know that there is? Why is there no debate that there's a platypus? Okay, how do we get Bigfoot into the same category? Because right now we don't accept Bigfoot as a real animal. The scientific community does it, and I will say it is very beneficial to accept Bigfoot as a real animal. If we were to accept Bigfoot as a real animal, I was like, wait a minute, what's that? There he is, right there. No. I was looking at the dog man, but
I like
yeah,
that. If we accept Bigfoot as a real sentient being, then the possibility of it manifesting itself so we can understand it, experience it, gets greater. Because as long as we doubt, you know, whatever you want to water the plant or the weed, you're going to get. So if we lend the idea that this is not only likely, it's probably just absolute fact, we open up a door that's truly on a collective level allows it to say, now you're ready for me to make my entrance. Until then, we're irresponsible knuckleheads, and it will never enter because its entrance will serve no purpose because it would only bring about harm to those who are just sincerely afraid.
no, that's true. That's true. Now, some of the benefits of accepting an animal as real by the scientific community is if we were to accept, and I'll tell you how we do it, but before I tell you how we do it, I'll tell you what happens if we do it. If we were able to prove that Bigfoot is a real animal to the scientific community, it would have a lot of benefits for Sasquatch. We would be able to classify it perhaps as an endangered animal. So we would be able to protect its culture, its members, and we would be able to protect the area where it lives. So these are really good benefits for Sasquatch or Bigfoot. And we could probably we'll probably mess with it less. So how does that happen? Okay, so when a new animal is discovered, the first thing is you do need a body. You need a physical body, okay? So with the platypus, when a platypus was discovered, somebody had to have a physical body, and then they wrote one of these scientific papers that I mentioned, with the introduction, the methods, and everything. Now, that scientific paper describes where the animal was found, when it was found, what it looks like. It's got drawings and measurements. It's given a new name in Latin, a scientific name. But then that paper is published, and then that body is deposited in a museum, and it's called a type specimen. Now, that's really important because the reason why nobody argues about whether the platypus is real or not is because if somebody were to tell me a platypus isn't real, I would say, look, read the paper. The paper says that the body is deposited in this museum. If you don't believe it's real, just go to the museum and go see for yourself. That is what we have done with every single animal that we know of. Every single animal has a physical body that's deposited in a museum. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to get a body of Bigfoot, okay? And I think a lot of people have the same goal. They have the same idea. I mean, we've gotten footprints, we've gotten photographs, we've gotten videos, we've gotten hair samples, we've seen their nests, we've gotten audio of their calls, but we really need a physical body. Now, there's some problems with getting a physical body. Number one, I don't think we should be killing one of them just for a body. I think that's highly unethical. So this is what my idea is.
And that seems like the only way to suffice to prove the existence of Bigfoot is to shoot it in the freaking head with buckshot. It's like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? And if we allow the existence and the presence of it to simply just be, then we can truly capture it, be it shoot it with the camera versus shoot it in the face with lead shot.
Well, this is what my alternative is. I do think we should get a body, and I do think we can get a body. But this is what my alternative is, okay? I propose we communicate with Bigfoot. However, I've heard of different ways of doing it, okay? It doesn't really matter how we do it. I've heard Hoot and Holler was talking about how he leaves symbols on the ground, and Bigfoot, replies with other symbols. I was talking to Laura Lee last night on her show, and she was talking about somebody can do like remote viewing and communicate with it telepathically. However we do it, we need to communicate with Bigfoot, even if it takes 10 years or 20 years. We need to communicate with Bigfoot, and what we need to do is we need to get Bigfoot to donate a corpse to us. That's what I think we should do. I think we should make a very detailed plan. A detailed plan. We need to have this colony of Sasquatch understand what our detailed plan is. Our detailed plan is going to be that you donate a corpse to us, and then we will treat this corpse with the utmost respect. Okay, we will respect this corpse. We will write this formal paper. We will publish this formal paper. We will deposit this corpse somewhere in a museum where it is safe. And then we will, after we publish the paper, it will be known to the scientific community, and we will work with our government to list it as an endangered animal, to protect its culture, to protect its members, and to protect its home. Okay, so I haven't heard anybody propose this idea of having Bigfoot gift us a corpse. But like I said, don't judge me too hard. I only thought about it a few days ago. And
I freaking love it. Let our world know that you exist. In fact, that seems like the situation for everyone. Everyone has this drive to let everyone know that I exist, you exist, we exist. We want to all be recognized and or acknowledged. I think it's just truly amazing because it goes back to the point of simply respect, appreciation. Would you agree that the idea that big feet, big phi, however you pluralize it,
I believe. I just want to say I saw somewhere that technically, the plural of Bigfoot is just Bigfoot.
Right.
So it's Bigfoot.
Right.
Yeah.
So these Bigfoot. It just sounds strange. So these Bigfoot, would you agree that they are extraterrestrial, alien, sentient beings from another world that comes here simply as biologists, wild trees, looking among the wild trees in botany to find out what's happening so they can go back and report for the greater good of not only their civilization, which will, in their conscious understanding, will well spring out into other civilizations back down the earth. Would you please leave us one of your loved ones that will be shrined in the memory of forever, and we will bury it when we're done as you require, so forth and so on? Would you agree that these beings or botanists, biologists, just learning?
Yeah, I think that's very true. I've been leaning toward this thought, and so has you remember Zelia Edgar, a fantastic researcher who has a channel called Just Another Tinfoil Hat. She also believes that Bigfoot. We were talking about it on her show. Bigfoot seems to be not strictly a normal animal. At the very least, Bigfoot seems to have radical adaptations, which we talked about as well. Radical adaptations, probably they have invisibility, cloaking, telepathy, and some of the most radical adaptations, perhaps they have the ability to make portals or go through portals. In other words, they are interdimensional. It seems like this is possible because we haven't been able to catch one yet.
And their awareness have to be completely off the charts. As we look out and about and look at some of the stories, when you think they don't know you're there, the only reason you're seeing them is because they're allowing you to see them.
Yeah.
They are so hyper aware. In fact, many years ago, I'm not going to tell my age, but many years ago, I was interviewing a dear brother of mine by the name of Steve Lancaster, and we had this entire radio interview planned out, and he goes, "Keith, did you hear what happened to the Bottoms? Drive your four-wheel thing down in the mud and get all nasty today?" I said, "No, I did not." He said, 2 13-year-old boys are riding their bikes. 13-year-old boys just want to ride their bikes. They have no idea or interest in seeking out a Sasquatch. But right by my house, literally 5 minutes, these 2 boys on their bikes taking a break, eating a peanut butter sandwich or whatever they're doing. They smelled this horrible, god-awful smell, and they put out their phones. After things started getting a little discombobulated and a little cray-cray, and they took pictures, and they said, this thing smelled like high heavens. It moved like lightning. So and it was 20 feet away from them, and he had pictures. And so I absolutely believe that you are going to see it when it wants you to see it.
Yeah.
Their awareness level is so beyond, in fact, it's probably to the level that many of us are trying to aspire to.
Yeah, I highly suspect that they're at least as intelligent in humans, if not more intelligent than humans. I really am starting to suspect that as well. So yeah. So anyway, that's one of the ideas I have. It wasn't on the list, but as far as Bigfoot research, if I were to attempt a Bigfoot project, which actually there's an area called the Big Thicket National Preserve. It's a paranormal hotspot. I've had my own paranormal experiences in these woods. I know them very well. It's not too far from where I live, and there's a road there that has Bigfoot sightings. There was a Bigfoot sighting in the 2000s, so it wasn't too long ago. Um, so that's probably where I would start. If I was going to do a Bigfoot project, I would start going there. I would start trying to leave gifts for Bigfoot, try to start getting a conversation going. But my ultimate goal would be like, look, whenever one of your members dies, naturally dies, I would love to be gifted the corpse, and I would love to treat it with respect, and I would love to protect you and protect your family, and then we could do it on your terms. You're the one that's deciding that you want to do this. I'm asking for consent to have one of your to make yourself known, but do it the right way. But yeah.
So Wild Trees has nothing to do except that which he loves. We talked about many different areas, arenas, fields that you play in. On this special day, you wake up and you can have any field of research or whatever it is you want to do in this way about this interview. What would it be? Cryptids? Would it be Bigfoot? Would it be to what level? How would that best describe you and your passion for being a scientist, a biologist, a searcher?
Yeah, I have. Okay, so I have one project that I really want to do, but it's a dark project. Unfortunately, I really want to do it because I think it will work, but it's also it's highly unethical as well, and it's so unethical that what I'm going to do with it is I'm working on it as a horror story. So I'm going to write it out. It's an experiment I have, and I'm going to actually write it out like a novel. And the novel is going to be like, what if I did this experiment and what if it worked? But as I mentioned, it's going to be a horror novel. It's going to be terror. So as you can imagine, it's not going to go well because I think that the problem with this research project is that it would work, but it would be extremely dangerous, extremely unethical, and it would be very, very dangerous and scary. I discussed it with my friend who's a medical doctor, and he doesn't believe in the paranormal, but he was so concerned with this project that he told me like, hey, even if it's a fiction story, I don't think you should publish it as is, because it's basically like the equivalent of publishing directions on how to build a bomb, basically. So that's probably the project I would want to do, and I probably will still publish it as a story, but I will leave out one important ingredient, like this one important step that the whole project hinges on. I will leave that one out, although that information is public. I found it out through public means, but it's the most important step for this whole process. I will probably just leave it out or put something fake in there. But so that being said, I'm not going to do that project. That's the one that fascinates me the most because I love horror, I love terror, but and as far as paranormal research, like I don't know which one of these projects. I mentioned some of them with you. I don't know which one I really want to do yet. I'm so fresh in my infancy with these ideas that I have to explore them a little more. I have projects I want to do. I really want to do with biology. Because I've had more experience doing biological research. Like, for instance, there's a group of beetles that I study. I study animal behavior, and I'm convinced that this one group of beetles that I study, they're water beetles. I'm sure you've seen them a lot, Keith. If you're in Louisiana, you're in the bayou. They're called whirligig beetles. They're like these little water beetles. There's a bunch of them. They live in big groups. They're on the top of the water. You always see them on the top. They do little circles in big groups. Are you familiar with these beetles?
Yeah, they float on the tension of the water tension.
Yeah.
What
Yep.
do you call that?
The surface tension.
Surface tension.
Yeah. Well, just to summarize that project, I'm convinced, I've done a lot of research with those beetles. I'm convinced that those beetles have a language. I believe they communicate, and they communicate using water waves. So their form of communication is with the waves in water. Now that's not too radical if you think about it. You and I are communicating right now with waves. We're using sound waves, but we're communicating with waves. I believe these beetles communicate with water waves. So that's the project that I'm most interested in doing. And I guess the other one I really want to do is I want to finish my thesis project, which is with water bears in Colorado, so that I could graduate with my master's degree. So those are the projects I really want to do. They're more biology. As far as paranormal research, the project that interests me most is this thought experiment that is very dangerous, very horrifying. But that's another form of research that I was thinking I could do, is I could do, okay, this form of research is a way we could do research and we could get into that dangerous, unethical research. But the way we get into that dangerous, unethical research is by conducting thought experiments. Thought experiments are basically, you do the experiment, but it's all in your mind. It's all in your imagination. You don't actually do it for real. But by describing it and writing it and sharing it, you can maybe still get some of the benefits of actually doing it. That being said, there is still some danger involved in doing a thought experiment. Ideas can be dangerous in and of themselves.
Since you mentioned danger a few times, is any part of you fascinated? Well, it is, but do you have any want? I've always loved the idea of, if I can ever find the time, to do paranormal research in regard of ghosts and getting spirit boxes and this and that and getting all the up-to-date equipment to, not because I need to prove it to myself. I've had many sleep experiences, conscious experiences, well, being in sleep or with my eyes open, of the paranormal. So it's not a matter of proof. It's a matter of capturing something that others may need said proof, or simply just for the wow factor for me and you. If we hung out in the same castle or the same prison that was shut down, like Alcatraz or the East Penitentiary of whatever state, are you interested in that field at all as far as capturing ghostesses?
Yeah, I am interested in it, but it would have to be with someone like you, because you're really an expert in this spiritual field, spiritual technologies. I know you have the best intentions at heart, and that's what you'd have to do. You have to go in there with a good heart, good intentions. So I would do it with you. I wouldn't do it with the wrong person. The other person I wouldn't mind doing it with is my friend. I'll mention him again. He's a medical doctor. He's a big skeptic, but we talk about the paranormal lots. Some of these.
So he's automatically unbiased. He's going into it pure.
Yeah.
He has no thought about it. In fact, his disbelief is a leverage up.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry.
I would love to do it. I would love to do it with him because, I would warn him. I'd be like, look, man, some weird stuff might happen. But because he's such a skeptic, he would be like, I don't care. He'd have that cavalier attitude. Like, I don't believe in any of this, so it's not going to happen. So I would love to do something like that with him, although he hasn't, I think he's too proud to tell me, but I think he's starting to waver a little bit, because another thing that happened, there's a medical journal. I have it. I could look it up real fast. There's a medical journal that published a paper. This is a legit medical journal. It's one of the original medical journals, and it published a paper doing a meta-analysis showing that there is evidence of psychic ability. And that's the one thing that skeptics always say. Skeptics are always like, there's never been a research paper published on anything paranormal. I used to say the same thing when I taught college science, but there is one paper that has actually done it. So if you want to fill a little bit of air real fast, it just should take me a minute, and I should be able to find it right here, just to tell people what the title is and where to get.
Sure, brother. Take your time. Do what you need to do. Welcome, everyone, to Center of Light. My name is Keith Anthony Blanchard. Tonight, my guest is Wild Trees. He's a biologist, he's a scientist, he's an explorer in a very different way, but it's not different at all. It's just his way of doing things differently. My name is Keith Anthony Blanchard, Center of Light. It's going to get cold. I am double winter socked. We're going to be going down come Saturday to 11 degree, and I live in an apartment that has no double pane glass. And it's pretty cool. But welcome, anyway, I'm having fun. Welcome to Center of Light. Good to see you. Tomorrow night, or very soon, I'm going to be doing a presentation on You are loved beyond measure. Of course, you know me if you've been following me for a while. We're going to get into the thick of what all that is. So, my friend, Mr. Wild Trees, is looking for some information as we are exiting Central of Light very soon. I'm just biding my time, looking at a few things, making sure I got everything covered. I just posted Wild Trees' Wild Forest. Can you see the forest through the trees? On Facebook and YouTube, how to find him. What's up, Wreaking Havoc?
Regan!
There we go. I love it. So everyone, welcome to Center of Light. Good to see you. We've got a few more minutes. My brother, Mr. Wild Trees, is going to share with us his closing thingy. What you got, my bro? Keep looking if you need to.
I'm still looking. I just wanted to say hi to Regan Havoc. Regan Havoc's got a great channel. Please go check it out. Regan, please drop it in the comments of this video. But yeah.
And I would also like to interview Regan in the very near future. Freaking Regan, for sure. Yeah, he has some lots of paranormal about him. It just simply just happens actually naturally. A lot of people have to squint and lean into the paranormal to get something to respond. Well, I'm sure he has many times when he wasn't wishing it wasn't so easy. Hello, Karen Rose.
I'm just gonna look a little bit more, but if I can't find it, that's okay. I guess I can't find it. But let's see.
The true efforts of a scientist. He's going into the field. This is what it looks like when he does what he does. It looks just like he is enamored. He is in it. He's digging up information. I love it. Love it.
Where is it? I know I saved the one. Well, Keith, I think I might not be able to find it. But
is there something you can describe it? Paraphrase it, your best attempt. What is it we're looking for?
So it's basically, I will find it eventually, and I will post it in the comments of this video. But I would just say there's a medical journal that did a meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is when meta it means it's information about information. So
meta doesn't meta mean that which is beyond current understanding. So in other words, this is where we are. Meta means another level of possibility.
That could be another definition. It could be, it could have several definitions. But in this case, when you do a meta-analysis, what you're doing is what these researchers did is they're medical researchers. They didn't do their own analysis of psychic ability. What they did is they looked at a bunch of other papers that had done studies on psychic abilities, and they pooled all that data together and they analyzed it all, and their result was that there is evidence of psychic ability. And this was published in a mainstream academic medical journal. And once this is done, I will post it in the comments. So that's just to say that I told that to my friend, and at first he was like in disbelief, my medical doctor friend. I think that might have started to kind of get him thinking a little bit more, like maybe there is something here, So
Final thought, my bro? Or was that it? Please elaborate. You got something you want to leave us with? For us future scientists.
Yeah, I guess I just want to say, if you want to get into science, I think you should definitely start learning about it, learning about critical thinking, because just remember that, science, what science does is it answers any question you have. Okay, so think of it as a superpower. What kind of questions can you ask? What can you do with that unlimited knowledge? Like I said, you can make your life better. You could say, question could be like, how can I live a healthier life? How can I lose weight? How can my family be happier? How can I make more money? There's all these questions you could ask. And so science could really be used to better your life and better the world. So, yeah.
Again, this sounds like someone supplicating creator. In your regard, in your walk, your deity might be some wild trees. For other people, it's Jesus and so forth. And so, yeah, I totally agree. When you step up to something greater than ourselves, it creates a humility. And in that exploration and humility and vulnerability and passion and sincerity, it simply says, you found the key to the door. Now you're responsible. This becomes yours. Yeah, kind of idea?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Everyone, Wild Trees. Bro, thank you very much. I really enjoyed my time with you. And so did my listening audience. They're chiming in the chat rooms and really digging your space, bro.
Awesome. Thank you. I had a great time, and I love talking to you every week. So
yeah,
look forward to growing our friendship.
Wild Trees and I, we do a panel discussion with a few others, 5 or 6, 7 others, depending on how many people can make it on said night. All about the paranormal, from aliens to water bears to whatever it is. And we have a good time. So I enjoy my time with you, sir. Keep us posted in any new scientific discoveries you may come across. Just contact me. We'll get you back on Center of Light Radio. Thank you again.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Peace, brother. Everyone, Keith Anthony Blanchard, the Center of Light Radio. I decided to do some things a little bit different. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to take tomorrow off. It's going to be cold tomorrow. I may come back Thursday or Friday. And I'm going to do a presentation on soul purpose. SOULSOLE. Purpose. Soul purpose. Also, your love beyond measure. My name is Keith Anthony Blanchard. It's good to see you. I hope to hang out for a second, chat with my friend Mr. Wild Trees in the green room. Where did that come from, a green room? Why was it always painted green? The most disliked color everywhere, unless you're a leprechaun. Mr. McCracken. Keith Anthony Blanchard, good to see you. You are loved beyond measure. I'm biding my time as I look for an outro, so I'm going to make up some stuff to tell you. I'll see you soon. Center of Light. Share this everywhere.